Alright guys, welcome back to the maintenance series. Today we're going to be adjusting the clutch and the clutch cable on your Harley Sportster. For this we're going to need a torque wrench, we're going to need a ratchet, we're going to need some box wrenches, and a set of Torx bits. And if you don't have one yet, I highly recommend the Harley service manual for your specific motorcycle. Everything I'm showing you today is in this book. It has all the torque specs, the tightening sequences, everything you need to know is in this book. So if you don't have one, I highly recommend that. Also, we will need some type of lift to get your bike upright off the kickstand so the bike is vertical. That way when you take your derby cover off, you don't have any fluid spilling out the side. I'll leave some links in the description below of some inexpensive lifts that you can get, and you'll have them in your garage and they sure come in handy. But other than that, that's all we're going to need, so let's get to it. Alright guys, the first thing we're going to need to do is take all the slack, put all the slack into your clutch cable. In order to do that, you got to loosen up this adjuster here. Same as we did with the throttle cables, it has a jam nut. You have to loosen that up. So let's go ahead and do that. We want to pull these clips off first. There's a couple clips, one below. Alright, so now that we have those clips off, we're going to go ahead and loosen this up. There we go. And then we're going to put all the slack back into the clutch. Want to put all that in there and loosen that clutch up as far as it'll go. So there we go. Now that we have that done, let's go to the next view. So alright, here we are down at the derby cover. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to get our ratchet and a Torx 27, and we are going to loosen these up. You want to go in kind of a star pattern when you do this. So just go around and loosen all these up here. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to spin them all out. Alright, so here we are at the last one. We're going to go ahead and spin this one out. And we're going to hold on to that derby cover to make sure that it doesn't fall, because you don't want to get that scratched. So, alright, so we're going to pull this off and we're going to lay it face up so it doesn't get scratched. And here's the inside of what we're going to look at here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Alright. So what we want to do is remove this little piece. This is your collar and your spring. Put that down so we don't lose it. And here is the actual adjustment. So we put the screwdriver in there, and we want to turn this just until it catches, just till you feel some resistance on there, which is about right there. Now guys, don't go crazy with this. This is a feel thing. You're going to feel it. It's going to catch. And then as soon as it catches, what we want to do is just back this off 1/4 of a turn. And that is your adjustment. That's all that you need to do. Now when you look at your piece that's going to go back in, if you noticed, it has two flat sides and the spring at the top. So on this bolt here, there are two flat sides. With those two flat sides, and that is it. Now when you put this back together, as you're going to see, there's our adjustment, 1/4 of a turn, and the flat sides may not line up exactly with the bolt. That's alright, this one did, so we're good to go. Be aware of that spring. That spring needs to stay in that position. So again guys, remove this, take your flathead screwdriver, turn it to where it just catches, which is about right there, and then from there 1/4 of a turn clockwise to release the pressure. You have the flats, line up the flats, and this is going to slide right in. There might be a little bit of adjustment in or out to get the actual bolt to line up, but that's okay. That is perfect adjustment. And from there, I like to just take my finger and just get a little lube on this O-ring just to hold it in place. Harley recommends that you replace this every time you do it. I think that's a little bit overkill. So that's your clutch adjustment. Be mindful of the spring. The spring has to stay on there. If the spring is not there, what's going to happen is this nut is going to walk its way out inside after you put the derby cover on, and that's going to cause all kinds of problems. So be very careful of that. Make sure your spring's in place. Okay, so let's get to the actual reinstalling the derby cover. So all right guys, let's get this derby cover back on. When you're looking at your derby cover, you're going to see that it's only going to go on one way. This little indentation here is going to line up with where the clutch cable comes into the crankcase itself. So we just want to line that up. Also, when you put it on, you want to put it on pretty flat. So you'll feel that spring. There's a little home right here where that spring rests, where it lives. So you want to put that on there, and you'll feel it when it finds its way there. And you just want to hold everything in place and start spinning the screws back in loosely. And be mindful when you do this, you don't want to cross thread or strip anything. So we're going to run all these in, and then we're going to get to the torquing sequence. Now guys, after you do this, if you have any leaking or anything like that, you may want to replace that seal, but like I said, I've done this a few times and I've never had any problems. Okay, so now that we have that done, what our torquing sequence is going to be, the way we're going to tighten these: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and the way that we're going to do this is we're going to torque these down to 100. The recommended range is 84 to 108 inch-pounds. I'm going with 100. So we're going to start with number 1 here, and there's number 1, done. Number 2, guys, let the torque wrench do the work. Just go, and as soon as you hear the click, done. And now we're going to go to number 3. All right. Now, just for safety's sakes, I go through and I make sure that everything is clicking where it needs to be and everything is tight. All right, so there's your clutch adjustment. Now the next step in this process, we're going to have to readjust the clutch cable to the proper specs and tolerances. So let's go ahead and do that. All right guys, so here we are back at the clutch cable. So what we're wanting to do now is to put tension back into the cable itself. So let's go ahead and make that happen. So we're going to spin this bottom jam nut adjuster out, and we're going to start reapplying tension to the lever itself. It just has a ton of free play in it, so we're taking that out. And then when we get the desired amount, we're going to stop. All right, now that I have the free play in my lever to where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and lock this in place. And then after I do that, I put my clips back on, like so. And you want to make sure you're not binding anything up and everything kind of is back where it was. And that's how you adjust the clutch cable. All right guys, so as you tighten that adjuster below, this play in the lever is going to decrease. And what you're after is about 1/8 of an inch of play in there. So, you know, right in here, it's hard to see on video, but if you give the cable a pull as you let go of the handle, this thing's going to move. As you can see, there's about 1/8 of play in there, and that's exactly what you want. And the reason you want that little bit of play is because when you release the clutch, you don't want any tension to be on this cable, because you want that clutch to fully engage. You don't want any tension on the cable whatsoever. So Harley recommends having about 1/8 of an inch. Here we are back at the workbench. So this is a stock Harley clutch cable. I have a Magnum shielding, so mine's a little different, so I thought I'd just show you on this. On your stock, you're gonna have this rubber sleeve. You just wanna pull that back to reveal your adjustments. And for those, you're gonna need a 1/2 inch and a 9/16. Loosen them up, move the jam nut all the way down, and then just screw this in all the way. And what that does, it all the slack in your cable. So that's what you want to do before you adjust the clutch itself. After you adjust the clutch, you're going to spin this counterclockwise to add tension to the cable, to the specs that I showed you, about 1/8 of an inch play at the top at your lever. Until you get that 1/8 of an inch play, you keep, applying tension. Then once you do, you spin your jam nut in place, just like that. Take your 1/2 inch, put it here. Take your 9/16, pull them apart. That locks it in place to where it's never going to move again unless you want it to, and you're good to go. So that's for you guys with a stock clutch cable. That way you kind of know what it looks like. All right, and like I said before, the Harley service manual, this is it. And this is your clutch adjustment. It explains exactly how to do it. It gives you the tolerances, like I talked about 1/8 of an inch free play at the top. They say a 1/16 to an 1/8. I usually go with an 1/8. And then it gives you your torque values, like we spoke about. And then on the other page, it gives you your torque sequence, like we talked about also. So like I said, everything is in this book. Everything that I'm showing you is in this book. If you get one of these from the Harley dealer, they're about 60 bucks. They are worth every penny, without a doubt. Well guys, that's all I have today for clutch adjustments. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it helped you out. If it did, please hit that like button for me. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. And like always guys, ride safe and be careful out there. Later.